I'm appalled and furious that these cowardly terrorists will deliberately target innocent Londoners and bystanders enjoying their Saturday night. One of the things that these terrorists want to do is to disrupt our way of life. They want to stop us enjoying the freedoms that we have, enjoy us mingling and mixing on a Saturday night in the heart of London, having a good time. They want to stop us voting on Thursday in the general elections and enjoying the democracy that we have. We can't allow them to do that. We aren't going to be cowed by terrorism, nor will we let them win.
Good morning and welcome to AM Joy. That was London Mayor Sadiq Khan today, condemning the attack that left 7 dead and at least 48 injured in a terrorist attack in the heart of the British capital on Saturday. The incident began on London Bridge as a van veered off the road and onto the sidewalk, ramming into pedestrians. Then the attackers drove onto nearby Borough Market, where 3 men jumped out of the van and used knives to attack people in bars and restaurants. Police shot and killed the 3 attackers within 8 minutes of the start of the rampage. British officials are considering it a terrorist attack, but no group has yet claimed responsibility. In response, Donald Trump did something extraordinary for an American president in the face of an ally in distress. He berated London's mayor on Twitter this morning, writing, quote, "At least 7 dead and 48 wounded in terror attack, and Mayor of London says there is no reason to be alarmed!" Exclamation point. And joining me now from London is NBC News correspondent Lucy Kafanoff. And so, Lucy, can you just give us an update on where things stand as of now?
I will, Joy, but I do want to just get to a response that we heard from Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, in response to Donald Trump's tweets, through a spokesman saying, "We have more important things to do right now than to respond to Donald Trump's ill-informed tweets." And obviously those more important things are this ongoing investigation in response to the deadly attacks yesterday evening. Police right now, forensic investigators combing through the crime scenes, trying to get to any bits of evidence that could help them piece together this attack. But the primary focus is on the attackers themselves, what may have motivated them, who they may have been working with. We saw massive police activity in the Barking area of London. This is a suburb in East London, about 30 minutes from where I am. 12 people arrested from multiple raids in that area, and more properties are being searched as we speak. That gives us a clue, Joy, that the authorities do have a pretty good sense of who these attackers were. They're probably reaching out to all of their known contacts, seeking clues about what organizations they may or may not have been affiliated with, what motivated them, and perhaps more importantly, whether they had any accomplices, any other potential threats that could put the public at risk. We did hear from Prime Minister Theresa May. She spoke out not just about this attack. It came, of course, on the heels of the Manchester bombing. 22 people killed there. In March, we saw the Westminster attack on Westminster Bridge, eerily similar to this, where a vehicle was used to kill people and then a knife stabbings killed at least 1 person. Theresa May saying these attacks are not connected by common networks, but she said they are bound together by what she called evil ideology of Islamist extremism, which does give us some clue, perhaps, of the affiliation of these attackers. But at this stage, it is a live investigation. We're not getting any more details from the authorities about whether any groups, any larger networks were associated with these 3 men who have been killed by the police, but they're certainly leaving no stone unturned as they investigate. Joy?
Thank you very much. NBC's Lucy Kafanoff in London. Appreciate it. Now I want to bring in my panel, Laith Al-Khoury, NBC News terrorism analyst, Dean Obeidallah, host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM, Malcolm Nance, executive director of the Terror Asymmetrics Project, Rosa Brooks, former Pentagon official, and Jack Rice, former CIA special agent. Thank you all. And Laith, I want to come to you first. We just put up that series of attacks in Britain. We had March 22nd, the Palace of Westminster, 6 dead, including the attacker, and ISIS claimed responsibility on that one. We had the Manchester Arena bombing at the concert, and ISIS again claiming responsibility, 23 dead, including the attacker. And then the June 3rd London attacks. While there is no claim of responsibility here, you do have an election coming up in Britain, coming up within the next week. You just had the concert attack when you had Ariana Grande there, and there's going to be a renewal of that concert in Manchester. Do you see in this attack kind of the thread of it being something ISIS related?
Well, I mean, you never know how connected this could be to, ISIS or a larger terror network within Europe or outside of Europe. But what's interesting is that ISIS has preached these kind of attacks. They preached ramming attacks. They preached stabbing attacks. They featured that in videos. They showed their operatives actually applying it on, captured individuals. But also, looking at the larger picture, ISIS does want to make itself relevant in any capacity. So whether an attack that it's actually orchestrated or an attack was inspired by ISIS, ISIS wants to make itself feel present. And so if we see a claim of responsibility from ISIS for this kind of attack, it's just not clear whether ISIS will say we directed this attack versus something like they were soldiers of the caliphate. So it's still not clear. But ISIS does claim responsibility for attacks that it did not orchestrate. And so this is something just to keep in mind as well.
Right. And so that attackers may even just claim affiliation. We saw the Orlando attack. There's no clear line between any sort of training, but sometimes people will just claim it maybe to make themselves seem more important.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Malcolm, the other issue here, too, is that you had at one point the sort of ISIS threat was seen as drawing people from where they live, from London or from, Belgium or from wherever they're from, and telling them to come to where ISIS is fighting in Syria. And there has seemed to have been a shift in tactics saying, no, stay where you are and do something horrible. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's absolutely accurate, because let's just put something on the table right now. ISIS as a caliphate in Iraq and Syria is finished. They are on their last leg. They're in their Okinawa moment. And all of the men who have gone there are dying. None of them are coming out. So what they've done is they've shifted to a strategy called jihad in place, where they want you to stay at home. They want you to remain in your country, and they want you to be inspired. When ISIS is long gone, what we call the ghost caliphate will still be there. That is all the videos and inspirational materials they left online, and they will still have mentally unstable people who want to, make a name for themselves, claim these attacks and use those inspirational tools in order to carry out terror.
And Jack, you look at the way that London has responded, the resiliency, really, of not only the citizens in London, but the leadership there as well. We heard our reporter earlier, Lisa Kafanoff, read a response of the London mayor to Donald Trump's really rather unprecedented attack on him, attack on an ally. And now there's this additionally from Sadiq Khan this morning on his Twitter feed. He said, we're all shocked and angry today, but this is our city. We will never let these cowards win, and we will never be cowed by terrorism. Is that the way to respond the most effectively to entities like ISIS?
Well, I think the most important issue is a philosophical one. Yes, the idea that you can come at this with bombs is something that fails dramatically. We're seeing that in northern Iraq and Syria. But what's pushing them out and what creates traction for ISIS, what created traction for al-Qaeda, was that overreaction from the West. We saw exactly what the United States did in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, and the rest of the West as well. And the problem is it actually created more terrorists than it killed. We can make a lot of bombs. We can make a lot of bullets, and we can kill a lot of people. But the problem is we will create more enemies than we actually take down. And we always need to remember that. Always.
And Rosa Brooks, I want to let you respond to let you sort of evaluate Theresa May, the Prime Minister, who's running for re-election next week, actually. This was Theresa May this morning.
We believe we are experiencing a new trend in the threat we face, as terrorism breeds terrorism, and perpetrators are inspired to attack, not only on the basis of carefully constructed plots after years of planning and training, and not even as lone attackers radicalized online, but by copying one another and often using the crudest of means of attack.
And Russell Brookson, what is the proper response to that? Because indeed, you have a cosmopolitan city like London, where you do have lots of freedom of movement. There's not sort of an obvious way to stop something like this happening.
No, there's not. And I think in some ways we have to think about it as like school shootings in the United States. When you have available ideologies out there, extremist ideologies, they're going to be appealing to people who are mentally ill, to people extremely angry. You can't keep everybody away from every weapon. You can't ban people from driving cars or vans. You can't keep guns out of people's hands. These things will happen, much as they will appall us each time. And I think that essentially the way to manage them, there's no silver bullet. We have to be doing good detective work. We have to be getting communities to collaborate to raise the alarm when somebody is acting weird, and acting in a way that seems like they might be planning some kind of attack. We have to not overreact. I think that that's a very fundamental point, that is indeed what terrorists want. That's why we call them terrorists. They're trying to sow terror. And the more we reward them by going, oh my God, you've struck a terrible blow at our society, the more we make other people think, hey, this is a good idea for me to commit a copycat attack. You get famous, people panic. Whereas the more we say, this is awful, you're mentally ill, you're a criminal, but we're going to carry on, I think the more we reduce the temptation for people to do exactly this.
And it's really smart, Dean, because that's what Michael Bloomberg used to do in New York. I mean, New York being a city very much like London, very cosmopolitan, lots of freedom of movement, a draw for people who want to commit insane acts. But you also had in Portland, really almost a mirror image of this kind of attack, somebody with a knife, radicalized in this case against Muslims as opposed to radicalized in the other direction. And you can't really stop that either. So I'm interested and I'm wondering if you are in the way that our president responded to this, Donald Trump. He went on a tweet storm about the attacks in London. We'll just put up a couple of them. But do you notice we're not having a gun debate right now? That's because they used knives in a truck, knives being the same way that the Portland attacker attacked, saying we must stop being politically correct and get down to business of security for our people. If we don't get smart, it'll only get worse. And then saying we need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban. There's an extra level of safety. This strikes me as the opposite of what Rosa Brooks just recommended in terms of the way you respond.
It's ratcheting up the fear, giving these guys more credit than they deserve. But let me just say, as a Muslim American, because most Americans don't get to see us after these attacks talk about these things, I can share what I'm seeing on Facebook from Muslims, not just in America, from around the world. First of all, there's prayers. Our heart goes out to the victims. Second, to these terrorists, we just don't denounce them. We despise them. They do not represent my faith. They have nothing to do with Islam, except they invoke it. They are the enemies of Islam. They're not going to be in paradise. They're in the hell burning forever. And the worst part of it is that they invoke Islam, they define it, they kill people in the name of our faith, and then we suffer a backlash like in Portland. We've had 5 mosques burned down since January under suspicious circumstances. Women with hijabs were attacked because of these terrorists. They are not of our community. They're not of our faith. We are turning them in. Manchester, we know someone in that community turned them in. In Orlando, a fellow Muslim turned in a year ago that attack, turned them into the FBI. We are standing with all of us. And just to be clear, we want to see them killed and neutralized more than other people of other faiths want to see them killed and neutralized, because they affect us as a result. So just so it's clear, from the Muslim point of view where this is, these are despicable people whose agenda is evil, not Islam. They are our enemies of Islam.
Yeah, well, we thank you for being here, because that's exactly the reason that we wanted to have you here on today, Dean, because it's important to hear from the Muslim community itself rather than just talking about it from the outside looking in. My guests will all be back. And in the United Kingdom, leaders reacted to the attacks with calm resolve.
The whole of our country needs to come together to take on this extremism. And we need to live our lives not in a series of separated, segregated communities, but as one truly united kingdom.
Elections are a wonderful thing, and that's one of the things that these terrorists hate. And one of the things that we can do is show that we aren't going to be cowards is by voting on Thursday and making sure that we understand the importance of our democracy, our civil liberties, and our human rights.
And when we come back, more on how the American president chose to react. That's next.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.